Hi there. This week I have a sketch that I'll admit I'm not absolutely sure about, but we're going to see how it goes. I have two photos of my cat and playing with his favorite little bird toy, and I was inspired by the diagonal lines in the photos, just the angle that I took them at. The rug and the wood floor created this diagonal, so I decided to try putting the photo straight, but putting the title on an angle and then putting some of the papers down on an angle, and then with embellishments in the corner. I wanted to, once I drew this out, I wasn't really sure about it, and I thought some heavy mist on the back might kind of tie all this together. So I've got a couple of mists out that I'm looking at for the page, but we'll kind of see how this one goes. This is perfect for 6x6 paper pad, and the Purist papers from Basic Gray work really well with my photo. I'm also going to need a little bit of washi tape, so I have some different washi tapes out here, and of course a couple of mists. I have a lot of different titling options that go really well with these papers, so when I decide on a title I can kind of figure out the best letter size that I'm going to need. And I have one other little embellishment from Basic Gray. These are from a different collection, but they're themed around pets. So I thought that working in some of those clips might be good. And for the bird images, I have a stamp set from Stampin' Up! I've used before. It's called Cheap Talk, and it's just a wonderful little set, and I think these little birds will be real cute on the page. I have three different backgrounds. I'm leaning towards the craft solid background, which is Crumb Cake from Stampin' Up!, although I do have a couple of designer papers. I like the craft, it just goes really well, and also since I'm going to be misting, I can play on a sample piece of craft paper, and if I mist one side and it doesn't work, I can turn it over on the other side, which I can't really do with the designer papers. So that's my plan, and let me go ahead and pick out some papers and get started on cutting everything.
There are a lot of papers from the Purist paper pad that I liked, and so I've trying to make my choices. I'm going to decide between these two florals, and I think I like the one with the orange in it because I really want to use that color. I definitely want to use the stripe. I love stripe papers. They're so versatile, especially when they have all the colors from a collection. And the circle paper is definitely a favorite that I want to work with. And I'm finding some others that I like. This one has some birds on it, but I doubt I would get it cut to really work those in with the other embellishments. So I'm kind of putting it aside. This smaller print might be an option, cut in small strips, and I know I wanted to use a little bit of blue. There's some gold that I just felt didn't really go as well with the papers, and there was one tiny little piece of orange that I had left in this pad that I think I can fit into the design. So now I'm just kind of playing just a little bit with the papers, not a whole lot, but just to see if this whole concept of working on the diagonal is going to work for me. And one option I have that's not in the sketch is to put a paper behind the photos and to tie it together, and early on in the process I'm kind of figuring out I'm probably going to need to do that, even though I am still planning to do some mist. So I've got three mists here, and I'm going with a Studio Calico one. I think I've got the bronze from Heidi Swapp and Manila from Studio Calico, and while the bronze looks really good with the cat's fur, the other one looks better with the papers, so I think that's where I'm going. And here's my page that I've misted, so I'll start laying it out. My photos, that's a take note piece that came with this collection from Basic Gray, and I'm definitely going to use that for the journaling. There's that floral paper that has all the colors that I know I want to use. It's not too girly though, so I think it works with my boy kitty. And again, just starting to position some things. I know that I need to work on the title, and I pulled out some thickers. The yellow ones were my favorites, and I know I want to use these wood grain stickers from October Afternoon, and I had some orange ones there because I decided finally what the words of my title would be. I have one large word and two small ones, and the large word's going to be in that yellow, and it looks like the paper with the little trees on it is actually the best. The yellow letters showed up better on it than it did with the circles. It wasn't as competing. Now I'm back to this idea of whether to put something behind the middle of where the photos go, and I've laid my square piece, the one with the circles, I haven't cut it up yet, and I think it might make a good background because it just really goes well with the photos, because it's kind of a grayish background and the cat's fur is gray, so it makes a nice mat. I spend a lot of time on this page moving papers around and trying to decide what works. And where the issue seems to come in is I'm starting to see that I may need to turn some things not diagonally but on the straight. And that's beginning to come up here, is that I figure out that diagonal line is a little too much, and you'll see that more later on. But I also realize that I need to pull together some other elements, finish my title, and do my embellishments, and then I'll know more what to do. So I'm laid my title out. The title will say Get the Birdie. So I'm putting the word get out from some basic gray chipboard and then using these little stickers, and those are going to really disappear. So a trick I learned from Sue Althouse's blog is to use washi tape behind your letters to make them stand out. And that's what I've decided to do here, is I'm trying a couple of different washi tapes to see what works the best behind the orange letters and also the wood grain patterns. I'm just positioning my letters. I haven't glued everything down yet, but I will. Like most thickers, these are going to need a little bit of adhesive. Now it's time for some of the embellishments. So I have my Cheap Talk set, these little birds I've used so many times on cards and a few scrapbook pages. That orange ink needs re-inking, but for the time being I can still use this first pass of it and see how it's going to look. I've punched it with a 1.5 inch circle punch, and I've got a flower punch that I thought would be pretty behind it. It kind of goes with the scallop edge on that note paper right at the very top of the screen there. And something I'd never tried before was to take two of these flowers and make a background behind a circle, and I really love that look. I have a scallop punch, but this was a better size, so I know I'll be doing that again. I stamped both of the birds, one in an orange and one in a gold color, and then used a marker to do their feet and all. And something great about this washi tape and the words is not only does it back them really well and make them stand out, but you can pull them off and move them, which is something I figured out that I needed. I began to see more and more that I'm going to have to turn some stuff on the straight and not have everything running on the diagonal. So I'm moving some words around here. Because they're on washi, they're going to be easy to move around and change. And I think that's going to look a little bit better. So I've got a few more things positioned, and I'm also thinking that I may need some of my papers to go out wider than just the 6-inch strip. Stripe papers are really easy to seam without ever knowing that you've seamed them. It's just like fabric. A striped fabric will take a seam better than anything. So I'm going to do that with the striped designer paper, is overlap it and match up the colors, and nobody would ever know, especially this one's going to go behind the photo, that I've used a longer than 6-inch strip and I've had to piece it. And the same thing here with the washi tape. I can use washi tape to make a little bit longer strips, and that'll sort of tie the washi tapes together. I have a couple of papers here also that were not part of the 6x6 pad, and those are possibilities for making a little bit longer strip. Just doing a little more playing. I know I'm going to need some washi tape down there behind my little bird elements as well. It's time to start gluing some things down, and I'm a little apprehensive about where to start. I end up starting in the middle. I do put my two photos on the mat. And I put just a little bit of glue behind them right in the very center, so I'll be able to tuck things down. And I'm going to use my ruler here to line them up. I've got them kind of temporarily tacked down there. But if I can line up a few of the lines straight, then everything else can follow on those, and I don't have to do a lot of measuring. Sorry, my head's in the way, but I wanted you to see how I get an idea of how I was lining up things, since I have some stuff on the diagonal. I decided just to use a 45-degree angle for the diagonal. That was the easiest. So I lined up the two corners on the same vertical line on my mat, and then I could take my ruler and go lay it across the mat, lining it up on a horizontal line, and using that to glue down a strip of paper at the top and a strip of paper at the bottom. I decided on the floral paper at the bottom, since I knew for certain that I wanted it down there. And once I have those glued down, then everything else can just follow those lines, and I don't have to do a lot of measuring and fussing with it. Now, some of this paper will hang off the edge, but that's okay. I'll just trim it off. And now it'll be easy to glue everything else in place. And there's that journaling on the diagonal. It's still bugging me, and it becomes one more element that gets turned to the side. And I like that much better. I just like the idea of having to tilt my head to the side when I'm looking at my photo album to read my journaling like that. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I have journaling going around things, but in this case it was just too many diagonal elements. Alright, and I have some more of those little flowers, so I can have 3 different embellishment groups. I wouldn't have to do that, but I needed something to kind of cover up the very end of that take note piece. It had a pear on it, and that didn't really go with anything, so I'm going to use a flower there to cover that up, and I'm still contemplating what washi tape to use. Alright, now I've glued down quite a few things. Got my title where I want it, some of the words going straight, some on the diagonal, and I'm putting those flowers back on. And remember that I had a paper clip that had meow on it, so that's going to go in the center of the flower. And I found this cute little ticket that says handsome, because I think my kitty cat is handsome and my husband doesn't. He thinks he's sort of ordinary, and he's not ordinary, he's very handsome. So I thought that was an appropriate ticket to go on this layout. And I backed it with a little bit of designer paper so it would be a little bit bigger, and I could put the clip on it without covering up the words. And I'm just using some large memory book size glue dots to attach this. And I also got to thinking that I might need some twine or something wrapped around this. I kind of wish I'd done that before I glued everything down, but in the end I moved some things around and put some twine down. And I've got my embellishments in place. And let's take a quick look at the sketch. I'm going to move some things on the sketch. The date ended up above. I put a sticker up there. I haven't written the date on it yet. And then I put an embellishment where the date is. And put, of course, a piece of paper behind the 2 photos. And that's my page. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out my blog for more information.